Well, Allison Fox is with us here in a very special Viking gallery at the Manx Museum, and we've already talked to the lady who found the treasure. This is just fantastic. I mean, that's their third go at finding things, but this is by far the best, is it? And the most exciting to look at, anyway.
And it's this discovery, I mean, it is, we said in the inquest this morning, but it is really remarkable. It's very hard to describe in words the impact of artefacts like this. So that's one of the reasons we really wanted to get it on display, so that people could just see the size of the brooch, and the quality of the gold armouring. So what Kath's found is a really nice, high-quality precious metal assemblage from the Viking Age, dating to about AD 950.
So in terms of historical value first, before the monetary value, historically, how important?
It's very significant. It's very significant. We know that the Isle of Man was important in the Viking Age, not just to everybody on the Isle of Man, but to the Viking Age areas of influence as a whole. We were a really important trading centre. The Vikings were about raiding and all that kind of bad Viking stuff, but essentially they were traders. So our position in the middle of the Irish Sea, where they could get north, they could get south, they could get out across the Atlantic, they could go down to the Mediterranean. The Isle of Man was really, really important. And we know that that importance because we've had quite a number of silver Viking Age hoards found before. But what makes this hoard particularly special is the quality and the quality of all of the items, really. So, for example, the silver brooch it's massive. It's hard to describe. People have got to come and see it. The coroner of inquests described it as plate size, and it really is. And just to imagine who would have worn that, and you can imagine
someone very wealthy.
Yeah, someone a little bit showy, I think, as well.
Blingy, I like it. But obviously times are hard or something. They decided they wanted to bury their treasure and come back to it, and they never did.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the most sensible theory at the moment, is that this, it's a large accumulation of personal wealth. That's a lot of money represented here in those times.
It wasn't just lost and misguided.
No, it's deliberately buried. And I think really the only reason we can sensibly think of why you would do that would be you'd think, I'm in immediate and serious peril, and if I take this with me, I'm going to lose it. My instinct would be to keep that arm ring on, and run with that. But if you felt so under threat, the best thing you could think of doing was put it in the ground and hope you could come back for it later. There have been other theories about hoarding in general during the Viking Age. We know from the sagas that some Vikings did bury their wealth in the ground, working on the belief that when they died and they were buried in the ground, they'd be reunited with it so they could use it in the afterlife. But the sagas were written 200-300 years after this kind of activity was going on. And although that's it's quite a nice theory to think about, I think in this instance that immediate threat seems to be the most sensible reason.
Can we put a monetary value on this sort of thing?
No. Essentially, we will have to. That's part of the next process. Part of the next steps in the process, really, because the finder has acted absolutely correctly every step of the way.
She's a pro. That's the third lot.
I know, it's really amazing. Really amazing. The Treasure Act says the finder's entitled to a reward of the full market value. Any reward is split between the finder and the landowner. Mm-hmm. So that's a next step in the process. We will ask for a valuation. We do that via an independent valuation process. At the moment, that usually takes place through the offices of the British Museum Treasure Valuation Committee. So we'll get that done in the future.
Is this staying here or going elsewhere for being viewed?
At the moment, it's very much staying here. If we do have to look at doing a little bit more cleaning to the silver brooch, because we think we might be able to remove some of the deposits on that. That's something we might not be able to do over here. That might have to go to specialists elsewhere. But obviously, at the moment, it's not easy to move things around and about. So at the moment, Conservation-wise, it's quite happy. It's not in any danger or anything like that. So it can sit quite happily in amongst all the other treasure.
So it could end up looking a bit more silvery, because at the minute it doesn't look like it at all.
Yeah. I think part of it, the hoop parts you can see, the terminals and the long pin still look a bit dark grey. They almost look like lead, but that's just the way silver corrodes. But that is just surface. Our conservator has assessed it, and the metal under there is pretty solid. But if people come into the Manx Museum to see it, they'll see it how it is now. But just across the gallery, there's an example of parts of a similar type brooch, much smaller, but that they have been cleaned, so people can sort of see how it would have looked originally in the meantime before we get it cleaned up a little bit more.
Well, this will inspire people to go out and buy their own machines, no doubt. But as I say, it's a responsibility to everyone here, when you find it, is to report it and to go through the process.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, there's lots of reasons why. I mean, the Isle of Man is a little bit different from our neighbours legislation-wise, because any find of any archaeological artefact, it doesn't have to be precious metal or anything, has to be reported to the Manx Museum. And what that does, that enables us to get a really good picture of what's being found, so what was happening in the past in the Isle of Man. Treasure's a separate bit of legislation. The treasure, if it falls under the various categories, does mean that if it's declared treasure, it will come into the museum and the finder's entitled to a reward.
There's bound to be more out there, basically, isn't there? Bounty.
Well, I've been doing this job for getting on for 20 years now, and I've averaged one treasure inquest a year during that, and I think I've had the privilege of handling some really fantastic objects, not just Viking Age but earlier and later as well, but 3 months ago finds of this quality are found, and it really is it really just shows the wealth of the heritage and the quality of heritage that we do have over here.